Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another book haul. Yes, I bought books in April. Um, and I'm telling myself that by doing so, ordering them from my indie bookstore or from independent booksellers online, used booksellers online, I'm supporting those businesses. But I don't need a reason, really, to buy books. They make me feel better, and especially now. I hope you are all safe and healthy. And again, sorry for not yet having answered any comments on the last 2 or 3 videos. I will, and I know that you will forgive me for being a little tardy with the comments. But anyway, on to the book haul. The first book I want to show you is this one, Patsy, by Nicole Dennis Benn. She is the author of Here Comes the Sun, which I haven't read. But I bought this book because the author is Jamaican. And as you know, if you're following me, I'm doing the Reading Women 2020 challenge. I will leave a link to their website and the challenge down below. And the very first prompt on this challenge is read a book from an author either from the Caribbean or from India. And I chose the Caribbean because I read shamefully little authors coming from the Caribbean, and Jamaica is part of the Caribbean. Patsy is the story of a young woman born in Jamaica who wants to make a better life for herself in the US, in New York. So it's partly set in Jamaica because the part of the family, of course, still lives there, but partly in New York. I'm really looking forward to that, especially because I haven't read anything by the author yet. Oh, and I should have told you the book was published last year, 2019. The next book I bought was for a buddy read with Sean from Sean the Book Maniac, and that is a short story collection by Carol Shields, Various Miracles. Various Miracles is the title story, the first story. It's quite a slim volume. It was published in the mid 1980s. And I read a couple of novels by Carol Shields, but never any short stories. I read Swan and Larry's Party, and at the very end of last year, in December, I read The Stone Diaries, for which she was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in the beginning of the 1990s, I think 1993, a book which was one of the best books I've read last year. So I was eager to explore more of her work and especially her short stories. And when Sean suggested this one, I was game immediately. We are taking it slow. We are reading one short story a week and then discuss that story. We just started in April, so it's about 12 stories, I think. So it will take us the rest of the year. Maybe we'll speed up when things have become normal a bit. But for the time being, this one story a week works really well. The first I read last week. It was really fascinating. The whole collection is centering around the theme of coincidence and people in extraordinary situations. And I just love her writing. So if most of the stories are as good as the first one, then I'm in for a treat. And yes, yes, oh, yes, I also bought some nonfiction. And the first one is this, a memoir, Rebecca Solnit, Recollections. Here we go. Recollections of My Non-Existence, which was just recently published in March of this year. Rebecca Solnit is a Californian writer. She is just 1 year younger than I am. She was born in 1961, and I read a couple. She writes mainly nonfiction. I read a couple of her essay collections, and I really like her voice, the way she looks at things. She is most famous for her book Man Explaining Things to Me. Something like that is the title. So the word mansplaining, she didn't officially, quote unquote, coin that phrase, if I remember correctly, but its origin is in that collection. So when I saw that she had a memoir coming out, I was immediately interested, especially also because the memoir is about when she was just about 20, moving to San Francisco and becoming a writer. And as you know, I'm always interested in books about books or about writers writing. So I'm really looking forward to reading how Rebecca Solnit became the writer that she is now. Next up is translated fiction, a book from Korea. Brace myself for the name of the author, Cho Nam-jo, translated from the Korean by Jamie Chung, published in Korea in 2016, and this is the English edition released just a couple of months ago in 2020. Um, the author, I'm not going to embarrass myself of mispronouncing the name. Mel, please help me how to pronounce this name correctly. And the book, by the way, is called Kim Yoojung, born 1982. The author was born in 1978 in South Korea. She was a script writer, and this novella, it's under 200 pages, is her debut novel, and it has been made into a movie already last year. I haven't watched that. I don't know whether it's available here. It's a Korean movie. Anyway, the book is about this young woman, Kim Yoojung, who was born a little later than the author in 1982, obviously, hence the title, and who has a husband, a job, a young child, and she has this kind of straight ailment. That's the premise of the book, that she impersonates, as it were, voices of other women, dead and alive. I thought that premise sounded really fascinating and interesting and fresh. And besides, I wanted to read more literature translated from Asian countries, so I picked this one up. And yeah, I hope it's as good as it sounds. And as you might know, April is also Aussie April, in which we are encouraged to read more literature from Australia. Aussie April is a recurring event each year in April, and it's hosted by Jacqueline from 6 Minutes for Me and Doris from All the Books. And I really try to participate and read at least one or two books by Australian authors in April. I mean, not that I don't try to read Australian books for the rest of the year, but in April, I do even give it even more of a try. It's not that easy, I have to say, in Europe to get a hold of recent Australian literature. Except if it's really a bestseller. But I managed to get a used copy of this one, The Arsonist by Chloe Hooper, published in 2018. It's a non-fiction account of a true crime. You know me, I really enjoy reading about true crime. In 2009, when a man set fire in a valley in Victoria. And then obviously he watched the inferno from his rooftop, and the book is about the hunt for this arsonist, but also gives, as I understood it, a broader picture of the circumstances in Victoria, the crime-ridden area that the arson took place, and the police officer who was in charge of the, yeah, quote-unquote manhunt. I have never read Chloe Hooper before. She published other nonfiction, and if I like this one, I will try to get a hold of more of her books, obviously. Next up is fiction again. Katherine Lacey, The Answers. I don't like this, but I couldn't get hold of another cover. It's a little bit. Can you see this? It's a little bit damaged, this used copy, but that was the only one that I could find delivered to me online by an independent bookstore. Anyway, the novel was published in 2017, and Katherine Lacey I read, and now I have an itch on my nose. I'm not going to edit this out. You just get the full experience here. I read her debut novel, Nobody's Ever Missing, and I didn't think it was brilliant, but I quite liked it. And then Amelia, who is known to you, I'm sure, she's a regular commenter, even though she unfortunately doesn't have her own channel. She read this book and she sort of kind of recommended it to me. And I was interested because Katherine Lacey was born in the mid 1980s. She's about the same age as Sally Rooney. And I'm interested in these young female authors writing about women. And I didn't like Sally Rooney, so maybe this book gives me a different take on these young authors. The book is about Mary, a young woman who struggles with an ailment. She has pain. Her body really pains her, but it's not sure what is wrong with her. And there is this expensive treatment, but she doesn't have any money. And then she answers an ad on Craigslist by a man called Kurt Skye, who offers quite good payment for young women willing to play the role of a girlfriend in various segments, so to speak. So he's looking for the angry girlfriend, he's looking for the intellectual girlfriend, and Mary here is going to play the emotional girlfriend. I thought that this premise was interesting, and like I said, I want to see whether I find a young female author writing about women that I really enjoy after Sally Rooney was not for me. And then the recommendation from Amelia, so I picked this one up and I'm looking forward to it, despite the horrendously ugly cover. The next book I bought is nonfiction again, The Invention of Nature by Andrea Wolfe, first published in 2015. Andrea Wolfe now lives in Great Britain and she writes in English, but she was born in India and she spent her childhood in Germany. I guess she has a German father or mother because her first and her last name are very German to me. I'm reading this book as a buddy read with Heidi from My Reading Life, and we have already started and read the first 2 parts, about 100 pages or something, and we are really, really loving it so far. It's about a German naturalist and explorer, Alexander von Humboldt. He lived in the second half of the 18th century until mid-19th century. The name is very familiar to me. He comes from a very affluent and famous German family. We have schools, the von Humboldt school named after that family. So I knew of him or about him, but I've never read a biography or a book about him. He was a very modern mind in a way. His ideas about nature, how everything is interconnected and how we should treat nature and the impact of man on nature and what that means. He was the first one to write about climate zones. When he climbed a mountain, he would draw, the vegetation zones, something that is nothing new or special to us now, but he was the first one in the late 18th century to do this and to sort of invent this. So I'm really interested, and I've started, like I said, I've started this already. So you will probably hear me gush about this book earlier than report back on the other ones, because I think we'll finish certainly in April. And if you are thinking, hasn't she bought any German books? She is German and she's supposed to read German because of the Read German Books 2020 book club that she runs together with Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures. Yes, I did buy a German book and it's quite a chunkster, over 800 pages, and unfortunately it hasn't been translated into English. It's called Effingers by Gabriele Tergit. It was first published not as a whole, but pieces of it in 1951 and then republished in 1982 as a whole, and this is a new edition published last year. Gabriele Tergit was a German author born in Berlin at the end of the 19th century, and she died in 1982. She was a journalist and her career was cut short by Hitler, and after the war, she was all but forgotten, even though she published quite a number of books. And she was then working on this huge family saga. It's about the family Effinger, that's their last name, a Jewish family in Berlin, and the book spans 4 generations. It starts in 1878 and it ends in the late 1930s. Like I said, it's 4 generational, but we have the focus on 2 main characters, the brothers Paul and Karl Effinger, who are just in their late teens when the book opens, starting a career. Paul is an industrialist. He is starting a factory, making machines and nails and things like that. Both brothers marry into very affluent banker families in Berlin. So it talks about the family, but also, of course, it gives the background, the development of Germany during that time. So we start with, the Emperor Wilhelm and the very famous Chancellor Bismarck just after the foundation of the of Germany as a whole in 1871, and then of course we will get the First World War and the rise, the 20s, and then the rise of Hitler. And because it's about a Jewish family, it's probably no spoiler when I tell you it's not going to end well. I am reading this book together with Mel, and we are halfway through. It's 52 chapters, so even though it's a chunkster of a book, it reads easily because the chapters are quite short, and they move linear in time, and we get sort of anecdotes about the family. We get a little bit of a background, what happens in Germany with modernization and the start of the factory, the financial crisis, and we are now just up the start of the First World War. And even though some parts, both Mel and I thought in the first half that we read might be a bit less engaging than the beginning, if you read German, because like I said, not translated, but if you read German and you are interested in a really broad family saga in spanning a very important period of time in Germany from a Jewish perspective, I think this book will certainly be something for you. I'm going to put it down now because it's heavy. Anyway, these were the books, my recent buys in April. I hope you are all safe and healthy. I'm looking forward to your comments, even though I might take a while to answer them, but I still read them immediately when they are posted. And I will do my best to catch up with answering the comments this week. And I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.